Lovely Tuesday morning to you, Baltimore. It is Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn Clark. He's Griffin. Still trying to figure it all out. Still trying to make sense of it. But hey, at least the word. Can't even get to this thing. God, that was amazing. I can't pretend like I watched any of it, though. I was watching football last night. If they were actually still in it, like if they were a game out, I would have been watching the Orioles last night. No. Such is life. The way it goes. You win some, you lose some. I will warn one thing. By the way, today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino in Hotel Maryland. Best place to watch and bet on every sporting event. They're giving you some free bet action right now. We're going to do Simple Bets a little bit later on today, and Leon Twyman will explain to you what it is that you need to do in order to get your free bet play. Love being the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. No better place to be for college football Saturday and NFL Sunday. The bet pads are available. If you want to make sure that you have a spot reserved, email events at sportssocialmd.com. We're going to hug it out this morning. My old buddy Kevin Van Valkenburg returns to the program. Jonas Shaffer will join us in a few minutes from Baltimore Sun as well.
And we'll get Joe Serpico as
we'll preview Waiver Wire Wednesday. Should we be picking up Jimmy Garoppolo? What about what league are you in that Tua is available?
One of my leagues, he is available.
That's insanity.
But I guess I'll ask Joe how much back I should put on.
I mean, yeah, you can do that, but it's nuts if there's a league where Tua is available. I mean, did nobody draft a quarterback?
No, I think
there's a 5-person league? I mean, dude, there's
10-person league. Tua was available.
There's no way. There were 20 quarterbacks drafted, and one of them was not Tua. Now, I get it. A lot of people don't draft 2 quarterbacks. I don't know any league where Tua Tagovailoa
my
is
quarterback
available.
situation is dire because I had Trey Lance and Derek Carr.
I understand. What I'm saying is you have a very unique circumstance. It's not a broad.
Yeah.
There is not broad availability of Tua Tagovailoa. But in your unique circumstance, by all means.
I want to see how.
Brashad Perryman would be one that maybe we talk about this week because Mike Evans, I guess, is going to be out for this game. Maybe. I don't know. We'll talk about all that with Joe Serpico as well this morning. I want to say this, and I don't want to be mean about it. I think that a lot of people are making peace with the demise of the Orioles by saying, hey, it's about next year. This is a bummer, but it's about next year, right? Or there's next year. Next year is what we're looking forward to. Next year. And it's always my quick warning that you never know if that's actually true or not. I think there's every reason to be excited about the direction of the Baltimore Orioles. I think there's also a lot of reason to say, okay, but right now, you tell me what the roster is that's contending in the AL East next year. Write it down. Jot it down for me. Because there's a reason why we've been complaining about the offense so much. It's one thing to say, hey, well, Adley's going to be here at the start of next year, and Gunner's going to be here, and
Trey Mancini comes back?
Sure. You got to tell me what that looks like. And I'm not saying that to try to be a negative Nancy. I'm saying that because I think you need to be practical about the distance that still exists. And this is the tough part. The tough part now, as reality sets in, is were they actually as good as the record indicated they were? And I'm coming around to the idea that no, we did get a bit carried away. And I hope that Cedric Mullins next year is a little bit better than he was this year. I get it. Probably not 30-30. He's probably not going to be 2021 good, but a bit better than he was this year. And I hope that Anthony Santander, if he's still around, is at least what he was this year. And some other guys have to play from this group. I hope Ryan Mountcastle finds a more consistent approach at the like I hope those things play out so that instead of us feeling good about 2 or 3 parts of the lineup, we feel good about 5 or 6. And then I hope the Orioles also add in at least one outside bat. And then I hope that there's one more maybe prospect that's ready early next season, a Jordan Westberg perhaps, who's ready to not only come up and play a position at a high level, but also swing a bat at a high level. I don't know what to say about Jorge Mateo. I really don't. I loved watching Jorge Mateo play baseball this year, but I can't plan around Jorge Mateo. I think we all have to acknowledge that sort of blip where we were getting super excited about Jorge Mateo and saying, do you block, Gunnar Henderson from being the shortstop next year because it's got to be Jorge Mateo? I think we have to revisit that conversation this offseason. I think we got to think about whether or not Jorge Mateo is a guy that you can put in your lineup every night. And that's tough because you like him running the bases and you like him, playing defense. But do you have enough otherwise for Jorge Mateo to be an everyday player? It's the only... I hate making it seem like I'm raining on someone's parade. There is reason for optimism about the Orioles, but specifically, the lineup is concerning because there's 2 parts of the lineup I feel really good about, and then the rest, I hope. Maybe Santander deserves a bit more than that. He had a really good season for the most part. Maybe he deserves me to say something a little bit better than just I hope. And I don't like this because these are guys that I like. Like, I really like Cedric Mullins, so I don't want to put him in that category. But I think the reality is that we have to. I have no idea if Austin Hayes fits in the picture for the Baltimore Orioles moving forward. And that's a huge bummer because I like Austin Hayes too. But I don't know that they can even think about Austin Hayes moving forward. They have to figure out what a competitive day in, day out, night in, night out lineup might look like in 2023, And it's going to require outside pieces to compete for something of significance. To try to replicate what they did this year, might just involve, again, 1 or 2 of their own pieces getting there. And I get it. You're hoping still that Colton Cowser is going to be a part of this sooner than later. Reasonable timeline for Colton Cowser probably isn't opening day of next year, but, might be in the summer next year. I don't know where you see Heston Kjerstad's timeline being. It's very difficult to figure out that whole picture.
Jordan Westberg.
Well, Westberg, I brought up. Westberg, I think there's some... I don't think it's unreasonable to say that Westberg is somebody that you're considering for opening day. I don't think it's unreasonable. I don't know if that means it's going to happen.
I think we could see him like the final series of this year.
I think you could, but why?
I don't know.
Just for funsies?
Give him a look. Yeah.
I mean, I guess. Sure. I don't know.
I feel like guys make September 30th debuts all the time. Like,
who?
I'm trying to think. There's somebody that there's somebody
once
that
upon
I
a
know.
time it was far more common because you would have the full roster expansion.
Oh, true.
And
yeah,
then
true, a little
when
different
particularly if a minor league team made the playoffs and they got through playing in the playoffs and you just had 1 week into baseball, you're like, you come up here and get a taste of it. But today, I'm trying to think of who else. Aberdeen made the playoffs, right?
Yes,
Or
I think they're like in
they're
the
advancing
middle.
the playoffs, right?
Yeah, I think they have 2 games.
But Bowie fell short.
Yes, Bowie lost on Sunday. They needed to win
in order to get in. So essentially, anybody who's on the Bowie roster, you'd have to say, like, now.
Yeah, well, I
Otherwise,
think Connor Norby got promoted to Norfolk.
Right. So, and how much more does Norfolk have, though?
I think they have like a week and a half left.
Really?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
didn't
I saw
realize it
somewhere
went
it was
that
like
deep.
8 or 9 games left.
Well, that's basically. I mean, that means that I didn't realize that they ran that. This is the problem with the AAA team not being here is that I am not in tune. Like, I just can't lie. I'm not in tune with what's going on at AAA because they ain't here. So we don't go to games and we're not thinking about it the same way. Anyway, the moral of the story being, they got to figure that out. Of course, I'm optimistic. This is disappointing, but I'm optimistic. There's reason to believe. But wiping away the disappointment of this by trying to say, hey, but it's about next year, sounds really good. It makes you feel better. It helps you sleep at night. hey, this is a bummer, but reminder, it really wasn't about this year. Okay, I hear you. But in professional sports, you just never know how these things work out. It's never, this goes back to the strategy that we talked about. It's okay to say, hey, you're trying to build a World Series winner. What's not okay is to assume that that's going to happen. The disappointment of this is real to me. It's unfair, and I'm not moving my goalposts. I said it was a successful season to me if the Orioles played a meaningful game on Labor Day, which is about when it all fell apart. But they got there. They were playing meaningful baseball on Labor Day. So I have to give that a thumbs up and say this was a successful season. But I can still be disappointed in how things turned out, and particularly disappointed because I just don't know. I don't see the lineup yet that makes me feel like this team is ready to compete next year. That's the part. The disappointment is Austin Hayes looked like he was going to be a legitimate bait. We were talking about extending Austin Hayes at one point. Now we're talking about him like he's a guy that's not even part of the equation. We wanted to see someone else of this group solidify themselves. Desperately wanted to see it. We desperately wanted to see there be someone from, go back to before we thought the Orioles were going to be competitive. The story for me about the season was who is in column B that could move themselves into column A. I guess you would say, Dean Kramer is the answer to that. But I'm talking about from a position player standpoint. Who was in column B, we don't know, coming into this season that moved themselves into column A?
Maybe an argument for Santander.
No, Santander was a known commodity.
All right.
I mean, Santander was about what we expect Santander to be, which is fine. He can be a part of the equation, but at the same time, he's not a centerpiece for what it is that you're doing. He's a solid bat to have. He's Trey Mancini, but he can play in the outfield. I like Santander, but
yeah, I mean, he was the most consistent guy all year.
No, I think he's. I guess Batista ends up being team MVP. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like Santander. I do. I do think it's important for me to say that. I like Anthony Santander. But he didn't move himself. He didn't all of a sudden rewrite himself and make himself. He's basically what we thought he was coming into this year. He just happened to have a solid season. No one that the jury was still out on changed the way that we view them. In moments they did. Austin Hayes did for a couple of months. Jorge Mateo did for about 6 weeks. These guys briefly changed the way that we look at them, but didn't change their reality as far as this is concerned. And that's disappointing. That's a bummer. I get it. It's still a successful season, and there is reason for hope and optimism. But boy, it would have been really nice to at least have one other position player that you come out of this season saying, that guy is part of the equation. One. They don't have that. You feel slightly worse about Cedric Mullins, although that's unfair because the standard was too high, but you feel slightly worse about Cedric Mullins. About the same about Anthony Santander, and otherwise you sort of shrug your shoulders and say, it's the guys we thought we had and nothing really else. And that's the disappointment. I hope the Orioles have enough either internally or whatever they do externally in order to fix that going into next season. I hope that's the case, but I'm going to be concerned. There's a reason why it fell apart. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't a string of unfortunate circumstances. It wasn't injury. They fell apart because they ultimately didn't have it from a lineup perspective. And that doesn't get magically fixed by opening day of next year. Unless, of course, they're willing to spend the money or make the trades to fix it. That has to be fixed externally for the most part. The two guys that we thought were rock stars, we definitely still feel like are rock stars. That's the good news. It would have been worse if Adley Rutschman came up and, wasn't the guy we thought he was going to be.
Played like Bobby Witt.
Well, Bobby Witt actually at the end of the year. It had a rough start, but Adley Rutschman had a rough start. But ultimately, Bobby Witt looks like a legit dude, too. I don't know. I don't know how to wrap this up. It's a bummer. I'm bummed. And it's more of a bummer because as much as we can keep talking about next year, I can't shake the fact that it should be better than this. Given how things were going, it shouldn't have fallen apart like this. We should be feeling better about someone else. Someone, as far as position players are concerned. All right. Hey, if you missed Stan the Fan, Charles Ross Grimsley catching up with Jerry Coleman yesterday on Facebook Live. You can find it right now, facebook.com/PressBoxSports, youtube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video. We will dive back into Ravens conversation. Plenty more of that. Jonas Shaffer from the Baltimore Sun will join us next. It's Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Experience the best in Kamado Grilling. A complete outdoor cooking appliance, the Ginsu Kamado Grill allows anyone from novices to grill masters to sear, grill, bake, and smoke all types of food. Designed for efficiency and function, the Ginsu Kamado Grill upholds the enduring legacy of the iconic Ginsu brand. Constructed out of thick ceramic, the Ginsu Kamado Grill is perfect to cook all year round, is great for parties, and ideal for tailgating with your friends. Reserve your Ginsu Kamado Grill today at GinsuGrills.com. That's GinsuGrills.com.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip, that first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Come in for Glory Burgers, Glory Wings. There's glory for everyone at Glory Days Grill. Enjoy their award-winning burgers, ribs, and wings, or try the fresh salads, hand-cut salmon, or the scrumptious sandwiches. Yum! Come in for the daily specials every weekday, like $7.99 burgers on Mondays and $6.99 nachos on Thursdays. Dine in and let us serve you, or order online at glorydaysgrill.com and take it home. That's glorydaysgrill.com for a location near you. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
The Maryland Lottery presents Ravens' Greatest Plays. It was called the Mile High Miracle, a 70-yard touchdown pass against Denver with 30 seconds left to send the game into overtime. The Ravens eventually won, propelling them to the championship. Another great Ravens play belongs to Diane from Annapolis. Diane played Ravens Scratch-Offs and won season tickets for 20 years. You could be next. Play Ravens Scratch-Offs with instant prizes up to $100,000. And please play responsibly.
Have you been to Guilford Hall Brewery? Located in Baltimore's Station North neighborhood, Guilford Hall Brewery breaks the craft brew mold with their great handcrafted microbrews and amazing Bavarian-style food selections. Join Guilford Hall 7 days a week for Orioles, Ravens, and all of your favorite college games. Make plans now to watch the big games, play trivia, or bring your dog for Yappy Hour. They even have free valet service on Friday and Saturday nights. Go to guilfordhall.com for a complete schedule of events, beer listings, and food and drink specials. We'll see you at Guilford Hall Brewery.
Tune in to Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday at 11:40 a.m. And if you really have nothing better to do, keep listening to this show too.
See Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th through 16th. In Cecil County. The only significant news that came out yesterday at John Harbaugh's press conference, Stephen Means indeed done for the year, and that leaves the Ravens even thinner at the linebacker position as far as their edge rush is concerned. Not that Stephen Means necessarily was going to be the answer for the Ravens there, but would have been nice to have anything that could help, anything at all, when you are as thin as you are. So scratch him off the list. We will see if Jeremiah Moon's an undrafted free agent out of Florida that is on the practice squad. See if that's the way that they go. A lot of people yesterday talking about perhaps they revisit the Jason Pierre-Paul conversation. I guess. I mean, I guess. As I said before, I think there's a reason why when they brought Jason Pierre-Paul in, they ended up deciding to look elsewhere. Just a guess that's probably not what they think the solution is, but I get it. They are so thin that I don't know how they rule much of anything out whatsoever. It's what it is. The Ravens now shift their focus to the Patriots, of course, on Sunday as they go on the road to Foxborough for the Patriots' home opener this season. I've got new power rankings up today at PressBoxOnline.com. Joining us now, he, of course, covers the Baltimore Ravens for the Baltimore Sun. He is our friend and noted Mark Turgeon supporter. He is Mr. Jonas Shaffer, and he's back with us now on GCR. Jonas, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Morning, Glenn. How's it going, man?
You know, it's been a man. Doing talk shows in this town over the last 48 hours has been super pleasant. Really, really fun thing to do. So let me start with the edge rush thing, right? What do they do at this point other than just try to wait it out, hope that Tyus Bowser's back in a couple weeks, hope that David Ajabo can help at some point? I don't think any team's willing to be aggressive at this point to try to trade for something just yet. You'd have to wait for that. It's bad, but I don't know how you fix it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a seller's market in all regards, right? I mean, you're not going to be able to, if you think someone like Jason Pierre-Paul can play, you're not going to be able to get him at probably the market price or whatever you think the market price is. And, you know, as you mentioned the trade possibility, I don't think really there's much of a market for trades this early in the season unless, you know, it is just a tire fire of a team that's already looking to offload assets. I mean, you know, the thing that the Ravens do, I think smartly, is they wait to sign some guys because the longer you wait, the less game checks you have to pay them, and the more flexibility you have the long term for that salary cap. But it is not a good situation they have right now. I mean, I thought Stephen Means, you know, even though he didn't do a whole lot pass rush wise in week one, I thought he had a couple good reps. He was huge for just spelling Odafe Owe and Justin Houston. Obviously, they didn't think Kyler Fackrell could do anything at all, or they would have kept him instead of cutting him. And so now you're back to this totally far from ideal situation where you have those two who are, you know, pretty decent top two, although we expected Odafe to have, you know, a couple splash plays right now. And you're lining people up like Brent Urban as edge rushers on important downs, even though he's not really a stand-up outside linebacker guy. And you have Calais Campbell doing the same kind of thing. You're expecting Malik Harrison to do a pretty good job as a run defender, which I think he has been. But also, you know, on those downs where you need a pass rusher, he's just kind of running into somebody. He doesn't really have that you know, wealth of skill set to make him a legit edge rusher in the NFL, or even an average one in the NFL. So, I guess it's just a situation where they're counting down the days until Tyus Bowser can go, and then after that, they're counting down the days until David Ajabo can go. But you're right. I mean, it is a pretty bleak scenario because we saw when this interior defensive line doesn't have any pass rush juice, like it did in week one, then it's going to cause problems for the back seven. And then I think it was just everything starts from the front, you know, just defense. And that was the blessing that Mike McDonald had at Michigan, where he had two incredible edge rushers. And right now, even though Justin Houston is very good, and I think, you know, Odafe Owe can get there, when you don't have consistent pressure, you really handcuff your defense in a lot of ways.
For that being said, I saw what you shared on Twitter this morning about there's still, if there's a silver lining of some sort, it's that if they can keep Marlon Humphrey on the field, they seem to be a much different defense when he was out there.
Yeah, and it should be noted, that, again, you don't want to make too much of a big deal about these kind of things because, again, something like a 60-yard touchdown can really screw up a sample size. But basically when the Ravens had Marlon Humphrey for like the 56 of the 71 plays on defense on Sunday, they were pretty decent. Obviously there were a couple turnovers in there that helped them change their luck around, but they were only averaging about 6.5 yards per play allowed, which is pretty decent considering what Miami did, in all other facets of the game Sunday. But then when he went off the field, especially in that fourth quarter, whether it was because he was kind of pushing up against the pitch count or his groin wasn't feeling all that swell, their yards per play basically skyrocketed, almost doubled, and they were basically allowing an expected point added per play of 1, which is absolutely terrible. Like when Lamar was MVP, his EPA per play was like 0.4. So anything above 0.7 is Chernobyl level scary. So it's a rough situation, but he seemed to come out of that game pretty decently healthy. No setbacks from Marcus Peters. They should have Brandon Stevens back, or at least close to back on Sunday. And you would expect some of the guys who struggle in the back end, like Jalen Armour-Davis, like Pepe, like Kyle Hamilton, to learn a lesson or two and come back with a better game. And of course, it helps that you don't have to go against two speed freaks like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill coming up against this New England Patriots offense.
No doubt. He is Jonas Shaffer from the Baltimore Sun. He's with us here on GCR. Jonas, this is a weird conversation because everybody loves to blame and finger point when a team, does something that you haven't seen in an eternity and blows a 21-point fourth quarter lead. I have this weird kind of way that I approach this, which is the biggest story to me was they didn't run the ball, and this is the NFL and this is defense in 2022. The league wants it to be that teams can come back from down 21 points in the fourth quarter because that's good for business. They've changed the rules. The idea of it's part of what rubs me the wrong way about some of Rex Ryan's comments. Like, dude, that era of defense doesn't exist in the NFL any longer. You're not allowed to play like that. The league makes sure that you can't just be that type of defense any longer. And it was so glaring to me on Sunday that this is what happens when you can't run the ball. The part that I'm struggling with is whether they're just going to be able to fix that should they get J.K. Dobbins back in the next week or two and then Gus Edwards after that. And, Lord, I don't even know how to talk about Ronnie Stanley anymore because I'm starting to wonder if he's sort of like the Easter Bunny at this point. Like, I don't know how to have this conversation because it is insane to me that anybody that's out on the field, they can't get any production at all in the run game, and that to me is part of the problem when we talk about the defense.
Yeah, and I think that there have been plays on the field to be made. Nate Tice, who works the Athletic, that does a great job. Just kind of putting out useful clips. Had I think 2 useful ones that he put up yesterday. I believe the first one that I saw was of that shotgun handoff to Justice Hill late in the second quarter against the cover zero, where admittedly he had to be cognizant of the situational factors of getting to the sideline, of using his blocks, of seeing this defender kind of creeping inside, but there was a lot of space for him to run, just up the alley instead of taking it outside. And I think he probably got the minimum amount of yards for a guy who had that just those acres of space to run through. So, obviously it didn't end up mattering a whole lot in terms of the bigger picture because they did end up scoring a touchdown on that one. But those are the kind of plays that I think you have to be bold enough to want to take and not want to run to the sideline because you're fearing, getting admonished by your coach for not respecting the clock when you have a couple timeouts. And then there was another play, John Harbaugh had mentioned that these defenses are really, stacking the box. And I think that's fair, but they also stacked the box 2019, 2020, 21. And so there was a play, I think it might have been the second half where the Ravens had a play action and they kind of tagged onto it, just a little bubble screen to Isaiah Likely going out to the left. And I don't know if it was always a pass, but if it was an RPO, then the Ravens probably gave up a touchdown for what was like a 3 to 5 yard gain, because if Lamar had put the ball in the belly of whatever running back it was, he had two, this guard and tackle pulling from left to right, and there was going to be a, one-on-one advantage for the Ravens, where they would have had, more players on the right side of the line than the Dolphins did, and that probably would have been enough to bust it. But the play didn't go that way. The ball went to Likely. He got a short completion. Again, I don't know what happened on that drive, but there have been plays to be made like that. Their zone read stuff, or their outside zone stuff, which is usually pretty successful for a lot of other teams, just hasn't been there. There hasn't been a lot of vision. There hasn't been a lot of holes. Obviously, they're going to keep plugging away. Maybe getting Nick Boyle back on Sunday will help some, but I think it's been pretty telling that they just haven't had enough confidence in where he is health-wise to throw him out there for even limited action in week 1 or 2. So, again, with Lamar Jackson, the basement, the floor on this rushing offense should always be like top 15 in efficiency. So for them to be probably bottom 5 in the league right now is honestly pretty stunning.
Yeah, it's very stunning. Do we have a feel at all when it comes to, it was, I know we all kind of reacted the same way to what it is that J.K. Dobbins said on his show a week ago, and how much more significant his injury was than what we knew. But the Ravens still chose not to put him on the PUP list. Where are we with all of this at this point, Jonas?
With Dobbins specifically, or what?
Yeah, Dobbins, and I got to throw in all these other it's so weird that we're still talking about this with Ronnie Stanley. I'm so confused by what's going on here that I want to be the guy that isn't putting on a tinfoil hat. I don't want to be doing like an Alex Jones impression and saying that the frogs are all turning gay or something like that, right? I don't want to be doing that stuff, but I can't help but it's super weird what's going on, right?
Yeah, I think the refrain from Harbaugh that I think everyone should focus on is, these guys have to feel like they're ready. And, I think there have been some instances in practice with Ronnie Stanley where maybe, 8 of 10 basic football movements feel comfortable to him. But if there are 1 or 2 of those 10 where he still feels like he's not fully comfortable, then the Ravens have to respect that decision, and they have to respect his discomfort and place faith and hope that, if they give him a week or 2 or 3, or gosh knows how long it's going to take for him to get fully healthy, then that's what he deserves. Obviously he's talked in the past about just how he felt like he rushed back last year, and how that undercut his performance in week 1, and how that led to his just unwillingness or his inability to play for the rest of that season. So I think you have to, want to give him some patience. This is a very, very long season. Patrick McCarry, I think, has done a bang-up job, especially as a pass protector on that left side. But with JK, I think it's probably more of the coaches and the front office wanting to make sure that he is good to go. I mean, that they have access to this GPS data. They can tell whether he's getting faster, how quickly he's moving, what his conditioning is over the length of a practice. So even though he was, kind of all signs from last Friday when we spoke to him for the first time, were that he was going to play, just because he had that giddy way about him, and he's, talking about like, you'll see. Obviously, the Ravens have more information than we do, and they didn't feel like throwing him out there would be for their benefit either in the short term or the long term. So obviously there are just so many vagaries to this, that there's so much, so much that we don't know. It's such an opaque viewpoint into just the health and rehab of all these players. But, considering how poorly everything went last year, and the trust that Harbaugh has placed in the medical science team and the rehab folks on that side of the building, I am willing to cut them a little slack until things just really reach a comical level, which they may already have. Where you said.
It's dancing. It's just weird that these guys were not put on PUP or were pulled off of PUP, right? When it limits your roster flexibility, right? And you didn't know for sure that those guys are going to be available. Jonas, everything we talk about before I let you go, all of these things being considered, is what happened on Sunday to you more a sign of one game early in a season in a weird league where crazy things happen and not worth overreacting to, or Is it more, dude, this doesn't happen to good football teams no matter what's going on. There is legitimate reason for concern.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely leaning more toward column B, but with the knowledge that the roster of this Ravens defense, especially, and also the offense, assuming there's not another injury apocalypse headed Baltimore's way, will look appreciably different in 10 weeks, 5 weeks, 13 weeks. I mean, we're talking about a pass rush that, didn't have Bowser, didn't have Ajabo, didn't have Travis Jones. I think people are maybe underselling what he could have given that interior push if he were healthy, and maybe he was healthy enough to play. Who knows? Mike McDonald said on Thursday that he was good to go, but it clearly was not. So you're talking about having a deeper offensive, outside linebacker rotation. You're talking about a secondary that should hopefully have Marcus Peters, more dialed in, more healthy, quicker, Marlon Humphrey healthier, Kyle Hamilton wiser. Obviously there are still concerns at inside linebacker because the same stuff that we are seeing from, Josh Bynes and Patrick Queen are worrisome just in terms of their tackling, in terms of their pass coverage, their pass awareness. But the Ravens have remained optimistic that Queen is starting to turn a corner in his career. So obviously we're kind of willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. So obviously there's always going to be attrition over the course of a long NFL season. The defense that we saw in the fourth quarter on Sunday is not capable of winning anything.
Yeah.
But I do think that, again, knock on wood, assuming there's just not a catastrophic run of injuries, this defense, just in terms of the sheer talent it has, in terms of the star power at pretty much every level of that roster, should be enough to carry your offense on a day when things aren't going well, or the passing game is off, or the running game is off again. So I'm not going to hit the alarm bell yet because of the talent and just the pedigree that's on this roster. But I also understand that if you show the lack of pass rush, if you show the lack of willingness to cover open guys 20 yards downfield, then you are not going to be long for this. You're not going to be long for playing time in this league.
At Jonas_Shaffer is how you follow him on Twitter. Of course, Baltimore Sun, BaltimoreSun.com. Jonas, I appreciate it, pal. I'll save my Alex Jones impression for the next time we chat. Thank you for taking the time for us, as always, my friend.
Of course, Glenn. Take care of it.
Jonas Shaffer checking in with us here on GCR. Hey, well, you never told me what time are we talking to Joe? I just realized.
Oh, it was 10:45 is what I told him. But he could probably do a couple minutes early.
Well, no, it's fine.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I just didn't know, and I was like, well, I wonder what got to plan some things out, figure out when I'm taking breaks and what I need to do. It's just a whole thing that goes in, and I should have asked earlier, and I didn't.
I should have told you earlier.
I keep coming back to that question. That last question I asked Jonas, I feel like is how I've been shaping in hindsight. Maybe it's how I should have shaped my column, which is it just one game? Is it just this is the NFL? The NFL's insane. Crazy things happen. That's the way it works. It's not worth overreacting to anything at this point. And I'll tell you what's weird. We've reached out to some people in the last couple of days that actually didn't want to come on with us. People who have connections to the Baltimore Ravens and basically didn't want to come on because they like the Baltimore Ravens and they don't want to be mean to them. And it's a weird, this is a new phenomenon. I have not experienced this before. Now, some of it is unfortunately, the hyper kind of sensitive way that media has become. And I hate this. It's impacted all of what we do. There are people that are paranoid that anything they say that really is innocuous. Do you know how insane it is what people are, the reaction to what Justin Fields said after the Bears loss on Sunday night? Which is the most innocuous thing, and frankly, if anything, should be what fans should like. Imagine if a player went to the podium and said, yeah, you guys, you're more angry about it. We don't care about it, about losing inside the locker room. Imagine if that's what a player said. Justin Fields said, we're angrier about it than you are, which is exactly what you would want. And yet we're so stupid. We're just so dumb that we try to create it into some sort of controversy, or Bears fans aren't going to like this. Why not? I had to admonish a former intern of mine who I like and who's a good kid and who I would hire back, I thought. I don't know what the hell was going on last night. I swear to God, we are so... There's something wrong with us. I mean, there's a lot of things that are wrong with us. My buddy, Lil Jordan, Marlon Humphrey tweeted, "It makes me feel slightly better that everyone in the division lost today, but still." Which is an innocuous tweet. And by the way, he smartly deleted it after I admonished him, so I actually don't remember exactly what he said. But Lil Jordan was like, "Isn't that loser talk? I don't want to hear this." I'm like, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? It makes me feel slightly better that everyone in the division lost today, but still. How dare you? How dare you not crawl into a hole and die? What is wrong with us? But this is the type of stuff that leads to, we reached out to a couple people that, again, I've been regulars over the years that just sort of didn't want to come on this week. And it's part because they're afraid that if they say something innocuous and we tweet it out, that they're going to end up causing problems. And because they don't really want to go after the Ravens. And that's concerning. I utterly dismiss what Rex Ryan had to say yesterday. You know, we need to take a break, but can you pull up the Rex Ryan? I hate sharing this. I really hate sharing this because I don't want to give more attention to carnival barking. This is a fine line for me. But you know what? Yeah, pull it up. Damn it. I don't want to do this. So Rex Ryan was on whatever the show is on ESPN, the Carnival Barker Hour. I'm sorry. There's so many shows. He was on maybe it was First Take, maybe it was Get Up. I don't know. I don't watch. I'm so sorry. I know that this is not me trying to be...
I think it was Get Up. Yeah.
Get Up. Fine. That's the name of the show. And Rex Ryan, do you have it?
I believe so, yeah.
Right, go ahead. God.
Hold on.
All right, never mind. Never mind.
Wait.
Don't do it. See
I
if
have
I
it.
can.
I have it.
You're one of the greatest defensive coordinators of all time. I'm just a fan. And even I'm sitting here saying, how in the world are you allowing the receivers behind your defense in that fourth quarter?
No, it's impossible. And it just tells you right now that they don't know what the hell they're doing. Schematically, there's something wrong with this team. And they have a lot of players individually. They got Marcus Peters. You got, the kid from New Orleans, Williams. You got all these guys. Humphrey. That's 3 Pro Bowlers in the back end. Why the hell aren't you playing better? And to me, it's like they're busting coverages. Communication is bad. They can't finish games anymore. It used to be we're up, just like Ryan too. We'd be up 7 points, game, set, match, done. They're up 21 and lose this game. Yeah. So to me, look, I question going into this game, would Greg Roman have the answers for their defense? He did. He passed it with flying colors. However, their defense, this new hotshot coordinator is terrible.
Well, you're one of the greatest defensive coordinators of all time.
At best, disingenuous. At worst, this is Rex Ryan, who, for those that don't remember, Rex is still mad. And made it very apparent when he would come back to town, when he came back for the Ravens' original Super Bowl reunion, how mad he was that he didn't get the head coaching job. And that somehow all these years later, he still wants to try to get one over. It starts by being disingenuous. Comparing the NFL in 2022 to what the NFL was even at the latest that Rex was a coordinator, so 2008, is insanity. It ain't the same league. We know that. We have eyes, we have brains, we have all of those things. You can't play defense the same way. The league won't let you, for good reasons, for reasons that are more related to TV ratings. There's a bunch of different reasons why that's the case. So it starts by being disingenuous. Well, we used to get up by 7 points, and that would be that. You're not allowed to murder the receivers anymore. You understand why maybe things might be a bit different than they were in the early 2000s trying to play defense? And I ask that because I'm not just asking Rex Ryan. I'm asking a lot of people in this fan base that don't seem to understand that you can't play defense the same way. It's not allowed. 2, it's not just disingenuous. Rex Ryan's an idiot. Marlon Humphrey wasn't on the field when all of that was happening. To say, well, you got these great cornerbacks, but they're not, what are they doing? Well, they aren't out there, is the answer. Now, that's not on Rex, really, because he's a talking head on television. That's on somebody who wrote for him or prepared his content, because that's the way it works on ESPN, is somebody writes your content for you or with you. And somehow they let him down by letting him go on television and say that without saying, hey, oh, by the way, Rex, you need to make sure that you say, hey, I know they weren't out there in the fourth quarter. Or at least Marlon Humphrey wasn't. So that's 2 on the list. 3 on the list is him calling Mike McDonald terrible after 2 games. Holy F. It's at best disingenuous, but it comes off way more like Rex Ryan, 14 years later, still isn't over not getting the job and still is looking for any reason at all to try to take shots. And also the Ravens moved on from his brother too, right? So maybe there's something personal there. I don't know. But it's not fair criticism. I know that much. Nothing about it is reasonable or fair criticism. Not what he said, which isn't to say there isn't fair criticism of what happened on Sunday. Of course there is. But it ain't what Rex Ryan said. And I get it. You guys all sit around, and anytime you're mad about something and you see somebody who makes you feel better about it, you pleasure yourself to it. But nothing about what Rex Ryan said is in any way reasonable or fair. It is at its best, disingenuous. Nonsense. Hey, coming soon, the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill, the perfect ceramic tailgate or home grill to sear, grill, bake, and smoke all kinds of food. Get the details and reserve yours today at ginsugrills.com. You can also see Ginsu Grills in action every Baltimore football home game. Stop by Hammerjacks for the Mother's Tailgate and see the press box tent where you can try some samples fresh off the Ginsu Kamado Grill, win some prizes every home game this season. Stop by Hammerjacks and check out the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill. Joining us now as we preview Waiver Wire Wednesday in fantasy football, he is Pressbox Fantasy Football Analyst, our buddy Mr. Joe Serpico, back with us now on GCR. Joe, what's going on, pal? How are you?
I'm hanging in there, my friend. How you doing?
I would have been doing better if I had bothered to look to see that Gabriel Davis wasn't playing last night, and it wasn't the singular difference in why I'm now 0-2 in one of my leagues. Really not smart on my part. I'm really good at that on Sundays for some reason. I am not good at that on Mondays. I don't remember that there are still players that might be out. But we live, we learn, we move forward. Let's take a look at the wire for this week. Let's start with Jimmy Garoppolo. Obviously, a lot of Trey Lance owners. I would assume if you're a Trey Lance owner, you probably need to be in the market for Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm going to ask a question like, I'm a Russell Wilson owner in one league. Should I be in the market for Jimmy Garoppolo?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think a lot of people are concerned about Russell to start the season. That's for sure, coming out of these first 2 games, where a lot of people thought that Russell should have been cooking, but that hasn't been the case. I wouldn't be going out of my way to go get Jimmy Garoppolo unless you're in a 2-quarterback league. Yeah, we have seen Garoppolo take the 49ers to a couple NFC championship games and a Super Bowl, but he has never really been a fantasy-relevant quarterback. Now, with that said, I do think with him now being the quarterback, I think that does bump up the value for your Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and even George Kittle, because I don't think it's any secret that he's a better passer than Trey Lance. And a lot of what people were relying on for Trey Lance was his legs for fantasy purposes. So that's a big blow if you lost Lance. I don't know if you were planning to ask me about Tua next, but he's somebody that has shot up my board.
Griffin brought this up. I can't believe there are leagues where Tua Tagovailoa is available. I cannot believe that. And I get it. Like, maybe there's just a weird league where everybody rostered one quarterback, but I refuse to believe that there are 20 quarterbacks that were more desirable than Tua Tagovailoa at this point.
Based off of what we've seen the first 2 weeks, I have to 100% agree with you. I have to admit, I was one of those guys I wanted nothing to do with Tua this offseason. I was fearful that he wasn't going to be able to support the two receivers, and we saw, especially for us in Baltimore, we saw he could more than support two receivers. He threw 6 touchdown passes this past weekend. He's definitely shooting up my board based off of that performance. Now, we can't expect that every single week, with both guys having 10 catches, over 100 plus 50 yards, whatever it was, and 2 touchdowns apiece. But at the same time, we've found out that Tua is a guy that if he's available, you absolutely need to snag him, especially if, like your situation, if let's say you lost Trey Lance or you have some concerns about Russell Wilson, I would definitely be taking a flyer on Tua for the rest of this year.
I definitely would too, but in the reasonable world where Tua is not available on your waiver wire, and your waiver wire looks more like this: Garoppolo, Mariota, Matt Ryan, Daniel Jones, Mac Jones, like Baker Mayfield, like when that's what your waiver wire looks like. Joe Flacco, who of course could have carried you to a win in fantasy football this week, which is a bizarro world. Like, in a world where that's what you're looking at, obviously I'm not going to pick up any of those guys on the waiver wire, but, like, again, as a Russell Wilson owner, I sort of at this point feel like I want to own another quarterback on my roster. Are there any of those guys that you're like, all right, pick him up, hold it, don't play him over Russell Wilson yet, but he's worth rostering when you get to Thursday of this week?
Funny thing I just saw before I got on with you, the top 3 passers in the league right now are Tua, Carson Wentz, and Joe Flacco. Never would have saw that coming. Never would have saw that coming entering the NFL season. Now, all 3 of those names, again, Tua, I would take. You didn't mention Carson Wentz, so I'm going to assume that maybe
not
available. But okay, I was going to say, because of all those names that you kind of mentioned, they were all kind of made me.
They're not good. Yes, they are not good, my dude. They are
not at all. Now,
by the way, it's why I was thinking about putting in a $1 claim for Jimmy Garoppolo, because I'm like, I don't know, like it's rough
well,
times.
Based on what you got there, yeah, I'd say Garoppolo is your best bet. I don't know. I kind of lean a little bit more towards Mariota. Again, kind of similar situation as Trey Lance. It gives you at least something on the ground. And if he gets you that rushing touchdown where it's 6 points as opposed to a passing touchdown with 4, that's a little bit of a boost for you. But yeah, you're basically scraping at the bottom of the barrel there. If personal preference, I would say, based on how the rest of your team looks, if you can stack anybody maybe. But it was definitely between those two. I don't want nothing to do with, say, what we saw from Matt Ryan last week or Daniel Jones or any of those bottom feeders that you mentioned.
He is Joe Serpico, Pressbox fantasy football analyst. He is with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. Joe, if you're a Mike Evans owner, is it worth picking up? Again, I can't. These are so many names I can't believe I'm saying. Is it worth picking up Rashad Perriman for the week?
Ooh, there's a name that we haven't heard in a while. I think Brady is in trouble this week just because you mentioned that Mike Evans is now going to be suspended. Julio's out with injury this past week. Chris Godwin as well. Who knows if those guys are back? They signed Cole Beasley today. That just shows you how desperate they are now. When they have everybody healthy and they have that 5-wide crew, that's going to be one hell of a 5 wide. Do I take a risk on Perriman? I mean, he's somebody I might be targeting, let's say, in daily fantasy this week, just because you probably expect him to be really, really cheap. But I'm hopeful that if you are searching the waiver wire, that you don't have to go to that drastic measures to find a Perriman.
Well, and again, some of these things. So, Joe, bear in mind when I ask these questions, I do want you to tell me, hey, definitely not on the waiver wire. But again, I think there's a secondary column where we talk about. But if he's there on Thursday, go ahead and take a look at him.
Oh, if we're talking in that circumstance, then yeah, absolutely do not spend any waiver currency on Perriman. If he's somebody you want to pick up, like you said, tomorrow or the next day where, he clears waivers, yeah, feel free to do so. But I would absolutely not use a waiver claim on Perriman. I think there's probably plenty of guys well ahead of him that you can probably spend a waiver claim on, just off the top of my head. Let's say a Curtis Samuel, who's really impressed the first couple of weeks. Jahan Dotson, another Commander, almost said the other former team name there. But yeah, there's definitely Robbie Anderson. I mean, there's definitely some guys that I am keeping an eye on before I go down the Brashad Perriman route. Again, Perriman may be somebody playing DFS this weekend, but that's about it.
What about Greg Dortch? You were down on him a week ago. Are you coming around?
I had a gut feeling you were going to ask me about him. I was wrong about him last week, obviously. I think he's more right now beneficiary of what's going on in Arizona. Injury to Rondale Moore. Christian Kirk isn't there. Even Zach Ertz is a little bit banged up. And then obviously DeAndre Hopkins is suspended. So I think Dortch is, taking advantage of a circumstance for him. Now, I think once Rondale Moore comes back, his role gets limited. Like what we have seen from Marquise Brown from the start. And Kyler Murray, I mean, I know he looked great winning that game this past weekend, but I don't know. He just doesn't look like he's all there as a passer yet this year. Maybe that changes once Hopkins comes back. We've kind of seen – it's weird this year. The Cardinals have kind of started off slow as opposed to years past where they start off hot and then get slow. Maybe this is the year they finally flip the script on that. But Dortch is not a guy, once again, I know you're trying to get me into that wave, but I am not putting a waiver claim on him. But he's somebody, let's say, if you need a third receiver, I'll poke at picking up off the free agency, but not a waiver.
I am again. That's fine. When I ask these questions, I think there's different categories. I think there's 3 different categories when I ask about these guys, Joe. I think there's get a claim in on him. Maybe some of those guys, especially when you're talking about Fab, put in a significant claim for him. I think there's the second category, which is definitely not for waiver wire, but, if they linger, then it might be somebody that can help you. And then I think there's a third category, which is why would that guy be on your roster? Why would you do that at all? Yeah.
I agree with you totally in that sense. Yeah, there's certain guys that are worth – I mean, I'm one of those that doesn't put in a waiver claim on a kicker or a defense until Sunday morning. I'm one of those that come on Tuesday, I drop both of those positions. I don't care if I have the best kicker or the best defense matchup. Yeah. I'll hold on to 2 guys until Sunday. If an injury happens, let's say one of my guys goes down, I have a backup running back. I try to, unless it's major injury, I'm not using Fab on a lot of guys, to be brutally honest.
I get it entirely. All right, anybody else whose name we haven't mentioned yet that you say, look, be monitoring this, if they're out there, whether it's for waiver wire again later on in the week, any other names that we haven't mentioned yet that jump out at you?
Another one that we saw this past weekend in Baltimore, Raheem Mostert. It was, after first week, Chase Edmonds seemed to look like he was going to have the majority of the touches there. But I guess once they fell behind quickly there, and Mostert has more familiarity with the offense, considering that he came over with McDaniel from the 49ers, and he got most of the touches, especially in that fourth quarter. So that's definitely a situation to keep an eye on. I don't think it's going to swing in Mostert's favor completely, but that might be more of a 50-50 split than we thought maybe, let's say, a week ago. And then another name to definitely keep an eye on, who's kind of been a pest for if you're a DeAndre Swift owner, is Jamal Williams. The guy is getting his touches, especially in the goal line, red zone area. He seems to be the preferred back right now. Actually got more touches than Swift this week, even though Swift was a dominant player for you in fantasy. And he looks like he's just one of those guys that doesn't need a whole lot of touches to be relevant. But Williams, I would definitely be putting in. He's a guy I actually would put a waiver claim on, just because know if something were to happen to Swift, he's a guy that is going to probably take over the majority of the carries in Detroit.
Well, so you're putting a waiver claim in on him if you're a Swift owner, or you would still put a claim in on him for anybody?
Depending on how your roster's constructed, he's one of those guys I would put in a waiver claim regardless. Now, I wouldn't go too crazy, maybe a couple bucks here or there in your fab, but he was somebody I would want to have on my team, because that there's a path to success if he is forced to get some playing time, as opposed to some of these other running back situations. You don't know who's going to be that guy. Like, if something were to happen to Jeff Wilson now, we have no idea who's going to be the running back behind him, because now that the Davis Price is down with injury too. So, there are certain situations where you feel better about it, and the Detroit situation is one. So, yeah, Jamal Williams is a guy I would definitely be putting a waiver claim on.
At Joe Serp on Twitter is how you follow him. Of course, you see all of his stuff every day at PressBoxOnline.com as he helps you get ready for Week 3 in fantasy football season. Joe Serpico, appreciate you, pal. We will talk to you again next Tuesday, all right?
Anytime. Talk to you soon.
It's Joe Serpico, PressBox fantasy football analyst, checking in with us here on GCR. Today's show also brought to you by Guilford Hall Brewery. Oktoberfest this Saturday. I was talking to Griffin, and he said I could drink $30 worth of beer at Guilford Hall in 12 minutes. Now, we've done a lot of stunts, but I'm not going to have him do that because it could get dangerous.
That could be fun.
I understand that, but it could be dangerous, and actually I need you to work on Saturday, so it's not an option. I'm so sorry. But for the rest of you, Saturday, $30, all you can drink at Guilford Hall Brewery's Oktoberfest party. And the party goes from noon to midnight. Do you understand how insane that deal is? $30, all you can drink. They're delicious craft brews at Guilford Hall Brewery. Now throw in for $80 an all you can eat and drink ticket. All you can eat and drinks. The delicious Bavarian menu. Pretzel, sausage, the whole deal. All that available. $80 from noon to midnight. I don't know what your plans are on Saturday. When they've got the screens, they'll have games on all throughout the day. Maryland, Michigan, of course. I don't know what your plans are. I don't know if you got kids with soccer games or something like that, but I know this is a way better way to spend your Saturday. They also have Dunk the Brewer, a Stein holding contest, giveaways, special Oktoberfest, cask tapping, music, games, and more all throughout the day. Go to guilfordhall.com in order to get your tickets. Guilford Hall Brewery, 1611 Guilford Avenue in Station North. Joe says, Glenn, understand what it is that you're saying about Rex Ryan, but you can't pretend like there isn't an actual problem. Sure, it's unfair to say Mike Macdonald is terrible through 2 games, but isn't it fair to say that there shouldn't be this many communication issues no matter who's on the field? I guess, yeah, it's an easy thing to say. It's kind of a dumb thing to say, but sure, say it anyway. There shouldn't be this many communications. Particularly the play where Jalen Armour-Davis doesn't move, and we all assume that Kyle Hamilton's supposed to be coming over. A reminder of the absurdity of PFF grades is that Griffin pointed out to me yesterday that Kyle Hamilton was one of the top 5 Ravens with their PFF grades. Because what they're grading is what you actually do, not what you didn't. We think Kyle Hamilton was supposed to be in help there, and he decided to go over to the other side of the field instead. They're grading what you do. It's why, and admittedly, I was in the infancy of PFF, I used to put the grader of that game on this show every week.
Oh, really?
It was years ago.
Wow.
And then after I talked to a couple of them and realized their methodology, I understood that, no, this isn't the Bible that we're trying to, and I'm wrong by giving it more attention. These guys are watching the game live and grading it. They're not watching the All-22. They're not going back and seeing the things, and they're grading it live, sitting on a couch somewhere. Now, I think that most of them are intelligent football people. I don't think it's worthless what they share. But we were treating it like it was Bible, and it ain't Bible. I do think that Kyle Hamilton made a couple of plays on Sunday, and after a few of our friends, Spencer Schultz, for example, from Baltimore Beatdown, shared out a couple things that he did. You see some signs that there is skill with Kyle Hamilton. But, the other stuff exists too. And doesn't show up in a PFF grade. Miscommunication, yeah, that should be fixed. Calling Mike Macdonald terrible after his second game is carnival barking. It's the height of carnival barking. It's saying something to get attention. Either because, again, Rex Ryan has some sort of personal vendetta, which we've known for some time he has. Now, I thought that maybe one day he would kind of grow out of that, but, maybe he hasn't. I don't know if that's what it is. I have to bring it up because it is a known fact. Rex Ryan came and kind of embarrassed himself at the first Super Bowl 35 reunion event that the Ravens held, going after them. And maybe he's also, I don't know this, but maybe he's angry that with something related to his brother because his brother was parted ways with the Ravens after the season last year. I don't know. But I know there's nothing reasonable about calling a defensive coordinator terrible 2 weeks into their career. It's insane to say if what he said was, this was a terrible performance, that would be a fair criticism. That would be reasonable. That would be something we could discuss. If what he said was, this was a terrible play, that, of course, would be a reasonable thing to say. He didn't say those things. He said, the new hotshot coordinator is terrible, which comes off like either my brother really liked Wink Martindale and is mad that Wink Martindale's gone, or I thought my brother should have been the defensive coordinator and he's gone, or I'm still mad about not getting the job a long time ago, and I have been waiting for a chance to take a shot. And I don't know these things, but all I can do is react to what's not reasonable. Why would you say something so wildly unreasonable? Why would you do that? Maybe he just stuck his foot in his mouth. I know that's a funny thing to say about Rex Ryan. I literally, no pun intended. Honest to God. Like, damn it. Damn it. There's really no way around that, is there?
You're making such good points.
God. Damn it. I swear to God, I didn't mean anything by that. Maybe he just, again, when you do these shows, you find yourself being encouraged to say stupid things. And so maybe ultimately it was just him saying something very stupid. He wanted to say something loud and bombastic, and maybe it has nothing to do with anything personal. Maybe. But again, there's nothing reasonable about it, no matter how much you want to share it out there, no matter how much it makes you feel like you're justified in, yeah, this sucks, they hired the wrong, like whatever it is that you want to feel because the Ravens lost a football game. You can't make it legitimate. There is nothing realistic, honest, genuine about that criticism. Because again, every layer, comparing it to when, Rex Ryan was a coordinator and the rules were completely different in football, naming players that weren't on the field and calling someone terrible after their second game in the NFL, every layer of this is nonsense. If he just would have made the fart noise that Dan Orlovsky made last night on ESPN, and I still don't know what the story is on that. If he just would have done that, it would have been of equal value. That is the bummer about that, is that Rex Ryan, given being a prominent former Ravens defensive coordinator, being someone who is, an intelligent football mind, should have had something thoughtful to offer there. That's the bummer about all of this. You're getting paid a lot of money. You should be able to watch the games and have something thoughtful to say about, hey, what happened? How does this happen? How does a team blow a 3-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter? What occurred? And Rex Ryan should be able to say, well, there's a lot that goes into it. It's unacceptable. It's not okay. This can't occur. But be able to explain it with some amount of thought, not, this didn't happen when I was in charge. That's of no value to anyone. It's like comparing pitchers today to Jim Palmer. Those days are over. Pitchers aren't going to go 9 innings every 5th day. It's never going to happen again. It is a worthless comparison. I don't know why I let this one bother me so much. It's just, it comes off so, and maybe it's because I really want to like Rex. He's a likable personality. The video of him talking about the hobo that came out over the sun was one. Like, how do you not enjoy that? But this is so blatant that it's either personal or stupid. And yet we breathlessly share it out as if it's some sort of valuable commodity. It drives me nuts. Today's show also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. It's been too long. My buddy Kevin Van Valkenburg is going to return to the program. He was in tune. He was watching the game on a Sunday. He's in fact done some Ravens tweeting with me this season, which is odd for him. We will see what our buddy from ESPN has to say about the Ravens' performance. We'll do it next. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Have you been to Guilford Hall Brewery? Located in Baltimore's Station North neighborhood, Guilford Hall Brewery breaks the craft brew mold with their great handcrafted microbrews and amazing Bavarian-style food selections. Join Guilford Hall 7 days a week for Orioles, Ravens, and all of your favorite college games. Make plans now to watch the big games, play trivia, or bring your dog for Yappy Hour. They even have free valet service on Friday and Saturday nights. Go to guilfordhall.com for a complete schedule of events, beer listings, and food and drink specials. We'll see you at Guilford Hall Brewery.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches. And top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
The 2022 baseball season is in full swing, and the future is brighter than ever for your Baltimore Orioles. I'm Paul Valley.
And I'm Zach Goodman.
And together we bring you the Bat Around every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon with everything you need to know about the Orioles and baseball as a whole. From veterans like Cedric Mullins, Austin Hayes, and Ryan Mountcastle,
to young stars like Adley Rutschman, Grayson Rodriguez, and DL Hall.
We've got you covered for every game, every pitch,
and every debut.
You can watch us at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. So join us live on the Bat Around every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
Come in for Glory Burgers, Glory Wings. There's glory for everyone at Glory Days Grill. Enjoy their award-winning burgers, ribs, and wings, or try the fresh salads, hand-cut salmon, or the scrumptious sandwiches. Yum! Come in for the daily specials every weekday, like $7.99 burgers on Mondays and $6.99 nachos on Thursdays. Dine in and let us serve you, or order online at glorydaysgrill.com and take it home. That's glorydaysgrill.com for a location near you. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
Check out Jeremy Kahn's daily picks at PressBoxOnline.com as he tries to find you daily winners. And speaking of winners, here's a man who once won a media curling contest, and I don't think anything else. He's Glenn Clark.
Coming up tonight, we will be at Skipjack's Crab Deck in Middle River. We want to see you there for the Tyus Bowser Show with Tyus and his special guest, Marlon Humphrey. Come join us tonight at 7. Probably want to get there a little bit early. There's probably going to be a crowd. I know we're disappointed about a Ravens loss, but shake it off. That's the way it goes. Come hang out with your favorite Ravens tonight at Skipjack's Crab Deck in Middle River for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Grade 8's Memorabilia, brought to you by Maryland Vascular Specialists and the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill. You can find out more by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. The Tyus Bowser Show tonight. Reed and I will be there with Tyus and his special guest, Marlon Humphrey, 7 o'clock, Skipjack's Crab Deck in Middle River. Hope to see you there. It's been too long since we have hugged it out, so let's bring in our buddy from ESPN. He is the great Mr. Kevin Van Valkenburg, and he's back with us now here on GCR. What's going on, pal? How you doing?
I am doing well. You're having me dust off my football hat. Get back into the.
Wait a second. You
life.
have been tweeting about the Ravens these first couple of weeks.
Kind of as more of a fan, or just a fan of football. But you're right. We can't really ever change our stripes.
I couldn't help but notice that, and I said, well, let's talk about it then. If Kevin's watching, he's more intelligent than I am, so let's go there.
Nonsense.
I am really worked up about this, and I shouldn't be because it's carnival barking, and I don't watch these shows for a reason, and I hate sharing it, and I hate myself for the fact that I'm giving this much attention. But it's so breathless the way that this fan base has shared this clip of Rex Ryan, and in fact, it created this very personal response from John Harbaugh at his press conference yesterday, which makes me think there's something bigger going on here. I think everything. Look, obviously the Ravens defense stunk in the fourth quarter on Sunday. There's no getting around that. But every layer of what Rex said in this thing on ESPN, and boy, this might be awkward. I just realized I'm talking about a coworker. Crap. Damn it. Well, let's
run with it.
All right, let's go with it anyway. Every layer of this is at best disingenuous, and at worst, to me, something like trying to compare defense in the NFL. When I was the coordinator, we would get a 7-point lead, nothing would change because you were allowed to play defense at that point in the NFL. It befuddles me how this still comes up, and I watch this game on Sunday and I rail about their inability to run the ball, and I get this crap from people. Oh, the offense did everything they were supposed to do. They scored 38 points. Do you not understand? You're not allowed to play defense in this league anymore. You have to use a run game in order to play defense. That's the way it works.
Yes, you are correct. The rules have changed a lot. Now, I will say you can play better defense than what the Ravens played. And I think it's obvious that Kyle Hamilton is not quite ready in terms of what they hoped he would be in terms of the ability to communicate and the ability to sort of recognize, not get sucked into certain things. And I think the way that the DBs were looking at him during the game was kind of bro, what are you doing? You obviously do not know what's going on here. And, I think that, look, it's no secret that John and Rex Ryan have not a very warm relationship towards one another. That's not conjecture. That's something that
I've tried
who has.
I really have already tried saying that 3 times. I'm glad you're saying it because I've tried to. I'm stating it as fact, and I'm sure somebody's like, "Oh, really? How's it fact?" We all remember what happened the night they brought everybody in together for the 10th anniversary of the Super Bowl. It was ugly. They let Rex speak, and they definitely regretted letting Rex speak. It did not go well. And I also don't know. Because he said Mike Macdonald is terrible. And I don't know if Mike Macdonald's going to prove to be a good defensive coordinator in the NFL or not. I know one thing. It is asinine to say that about someone who has been a coordinator for 2 games in their career. And I don't know if Mike Macdonald's a good defensive coordinator or not. But I know that it's the height of absurdity to say something like that. Also makes me wonder if there's something additional related to his brother not being back on the staff after last year.
Look, I'm not going to sort of be critical of any, colleague who's offering takes on a show where you're supposed to offer takes. It's supposed to be about debate. I do think that it's probably, from my perspective, tough to judge a defense that has a lot of younger people in the secondary trying to figure things out or trying to, get healthy. And I think that one thing that back when I used to talk with John regularly is he used to sort of say, it's always tough in the beginning of the season to figure out communication with defense with younger players, but I'll tell you what, we'll be fine. by game 10, 11, 12, we need to like figure out how to play better, but they'll figure it out by the end of things and we'll be right there. And oftentimes, you know, I remember we had a conversation like privately where he said exactly that about a defense that looked like it sucked. And by the end of the year, like he was exactly right. Like the defense was a lot better. So, you know, the truth is that it's on the head coach of who he hires as a defensive coordinator, defensive backs coach, but he'll have to kind of, you know, decide whether it's working out over the long term. But I think you got to give it, you know, some time. You got to give, I mean, look, like mine could be really good. Mike McDaniel's a really good coach, and he can really create a lot of mismatches with as much speed as Miami has. And so it was a little bit of a perfect storm. Like if J.K. Dobbins is playing in this game and like, even if he's like 75, 80% healthy, I think they'd probably pick up a first down or two. And this is never really a game. But right now you're sort of seeing that the Ravens have the potential to be really good on offense, except the one thing that they cannot do is basically like run through A and B gap with like dives because they just don't have that sort of inside explosiveness. And so much like I think the simplest way to like understand the Ravens offense is if that can happen, which it did 2 years ago when Lamar won an MVP, they're really dynamic and almost impossible to stop. And if that doesn't happen, then they're kind of patching things together and asking Lamar to sort of play Superman to be good, not great. Like, and so I just think that so much of Roman's offense is predicated on this idea of like, hey, first of all, you got to stop us like up the middle. And if you can't do that, we're going to run all over you because then sometimes we're going to pull it and then we're going to dump it over the top and we're going to run around the edge, or sometimes we're going to turn up the middle or whatever. And you can see where Miami, you know, on the one sort of like QB kind of option read keeper, Lamar shot that gap and was gone. And that was like, oh man, this is like, looks like it's like 2 years ago again. But it's not going to be that way until they figure out how to open up those, you know, inside gaps. And that's a flaw, but also, you know, sometimes you lose a fluky game and, you know, I mean, I think they could lose to New England. I don't think New England's that good, but they could. And all of a sudden, you know, people will be panicking, but I still think like, as long as they stay healthy and kind of get healthier and figure some things out, they'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really bad because they have Buffalo and Cincinnati the 2 weeks after that. I mean, you could set yourself up for what could be an unpleasant stretch. Kevin Van Valkenburg's with us on GCR. Kevin, what you're alluding to is what admittedly I'm struggling with, which is my nature is to say this is one game early in a football season, and this is a bizarre league, man. Like, we're reacting to the fact that no team ever blows a 3-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter, but I've seen enough crazy things in the NFL for me to think it's actually going to probably happen again at some point this season, the next season, something like that. I mean, it's just the league is nuts. But I am kind of conflating that with, but no matter who's out there, they should be able to run the ball at least a little bit. No matter what you're dealing with, you shouldn't be. This was arena football on Sunday in the fourth quarter. Like, I get they're young players out there, and I get that you're depleted in the edge rush, but this at times was embarrassing, and I'm really struggling with, hey, it's just one game, don't overreact to it, versus, yeah, but this doesn't happen in the NFL this much.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we don't know how like this NFL season is gonna sort of unfold, right? Like sometimes teams that you think are going to be great are not, and sometimes it's the opposite. And so kind of the rhythm of the season usually takes like a month or 6 weeks to sort of, you know, play out. And, you know, the Ravens are going to have to figure out how to run the ball a little bit better because they aren't going to be like super strong on the back end. It just doesn't seem like, you know, they're going to take some risks and, you know, they're going to pick off some passes, but like, you're right. This isn't 2001 through 2006. Like they're just not going to be able to like shut teams down, especially if they sort of, you know, are figuring out their personnel. And they just, I don't know, they don't have like the same kind of playmakers at linebacker that they used to. And it's just, again, the rules have changed enough to where it just doesn't work that way. You know, who knows? I mean, that's kind of the joy of watching football, is right? Is that, like, truly you can go broke over and over again betting on
right.
the winners or whatever, like the favorites. So you just don't possibly know what a season is going to look like until it plays out. But I mean, I think, like, guess what? John Harbaugh has a pretty good track record of, like, putting together winning football teams, and some other people don't, who have, you know, that's maybe why they're in media now. So I guess I would sort of say, I think you got to trust the guy who's still in his job and has shown that he knows how to put together a pretty good staff.
You brought up Kyle Hamilton, and Tyler Linderbaum has not looked good either. Not that the snap was on him on Sunday, but, you know, he's not getting push. You know, I think that at some point the question comes back up of, outside of Lamar Jackson, which of course is a monstrous hit, but again, technically was still in the Newsome era, do the Ravens have a drafting problem? And I'm not again, it's unfair. This is like, you know, saying that Mike McDonald's terrible after 2 games. I'm not saying that Kyle Hamilton won't prove to be a football player, that, you know, Tyler Linderbaum won't prove to be a football player. It's just something that I got to kind of file away in looking at how much credit we continuously give the Ravens for, you know, they're zigging when other teams are zagging, and they're seeing that teams are devaluing safety. I don't know, man. Like, what do they have to show for the zig versus zag, other than, again, a hell of a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say first off, though, is, like, the hell of a quarterback thing is the most important thing to get right. Like,
no question.
It's 1 through 10 and, like, how to build a good NFL team. So you get a little leeway in that. And also, like, I think it's really, you have to be able to give some younger players some time. I mean, everybody thought that both Linderbaum and Kyle Hamilton were, like, great picks, and, you know, 2 games doesn't really change that. So you got to sort of tell yourself, like, hey, you know, some guys are going to take it a little bit. I think it's fairer to sort of judge, like, a Patrick Queen, who I don't think is particularly good. But I think, like, Pro Football Focus sort of analysis backs that up. There's a lot other people who, you know, disagree and think, like, oh, well, you know, he's doing what the coaches do. I mean, I think he runs around a lot of blocks. I think he gets out of position a lot. That's a more fair, I think, analysis, because he's had, you know, 3 years in the league.
Right. And it's obviously the 2019 draft comes off as being disastrous, and, you know, Hollywood Brown, and it's unfair to, you know, I did tragedy with Jalen Ferguson, but he wasn't playing good football even before then. And then Miles Boykin, like, it's just starting to be that there's kind of things are stockpiling, and there's maybe a little bit of more microscope. To be fair, of course, Rashad Bateman really does look like a quality football player, so there is something to be said for that. All right. To me, dude, the Lamar Jackson of all the topics that you and I discussed over the years, I don't think there's been a more compelling, not the nonsense of it, not the idiocy of the criticism he faced. That's not compelling. That's just stupid. I mean the actual nuts and bolts of a man wanting a fully guaranteed contract, perhaps being worth it, a team not wanting to give it to him, and in fairness, probably fighting on behalf of the rest of the league in not wanting to give it to him. I think this is the most compelling storyline I've ever come across in this city in talking about something. It's not, you know, it's not on the field. I don't know what you do here. I don't know how this plays out. It's easy for me to say, well, ultimately you have to bend, or I get it. I get why it is the Ravens are saying, hey, we can't just do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, how do you tell Lamar Jackson, like, dude, we love you, but, like, we can't emulate Cleveland, which has been a dumpster fire of an organization for a long time. Like, it's just not, they're so outside the bounds of, like, what's normal in the league. Like, we're happy to pay you more money than Kyler Murray. We're happy to pay you more money than, you know, or at least equal to, like, a Josh Mahomes, or excuse me, Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or whatever. But, like, we can't put ourselves in a position where we're guaranteeing $250 million. And maybe Lamar just didn't care. I mean, Lamar always strikes me as someone who's just like, man, like, it'll work itself out. Well, I'll be fine. Like, he's obviously a person of conviction and sort of dug in on this. And, you know, I kind of wonder if, like, you know, the disastrous kind of scenario is, like, he plays great for 11 games and then, like, gets a devastating knee injury and, like, never is the same guy again. And the Ravens had to walk away from it. and him, and it's like, oh man, like what could have been? You know, he cost himself all that money, whatever. But like maybe the more realistic scenario is like they just kind of are at a perennial stalemate, and the Ravens franchise tag him, and he, you know, does the Kirk Cousins thing where he plays a year for $40-some million, and they franchise tag him again, and he plays for $50 million in 1 year or whatever. And eventually, like, the Ravens have to either decide, like, yo, like we either do have to bend to his wishes and give him a guaranteed deal, or we have to kind of explore trading him and see what that's like, because we can't carry a $50 million cap hit every single year or whatever for 2 more years. And a lot of it depends on probably how good the Ravens are. You know, it's like they didn't want to pay Joe, and Joe proved it, like, hey, you got to pay me when you won a Super Bowl. And so they did. And, you know, that contract didn't look great in the long run, but they kind of had to do it. And so I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's a scenario where, like, it reaches game 8 and he's playing so great, all of a sudden, like, Eric's like, you know what, we went and signed him for $250. Like,
right.
You know, that's just not how it's going to work. And which is sad in the sense of, like, him either potentially leaving someday or potentially getting hurt and never getting that big payday. But I think for the most part, like, I think thankfully, if you're a Ravens fan, he's not like he's going to sort of pout his way through the season, which is like a lot of people do. Like, he's just going to basically like, all right, I'm going to ball out and it's going to work itself out. And, you know, that's a reassuring.
Right. For the meantime, I agree with you. In the moment, it's not all that much. But I don't know. It's that sneaking thing. I talked about it when, you know, Manny Machado was in Baltimore, where you're like, yeah, I can enjoy this, but, like, you can say enjoy the ride, but, man, what happens if the ride, you know, falls off the track at the end, right? Like, it doesn't mean I don't enjoy all the hills and the spins and all that sort of stuff, but, like, I'd like to know that it's not going to fall off. It's just a weird sort of feeling that exists here. And to your point, the other thing that strikes me is, if you're Lamar Jackson and you're going through all of this, like, if you know there's another team that's willing to give you a fully guaranteed deal, then this makes sense, right? Like, it makes sense that you'd say, hey, look, I'm not going to sign for anything other than a fully guaranteed deal because, you know, the Dolphins told me, and, you know, there's maybe some irony there, and all of a sudden Tua looking like a world beater. But, like, the Dolphins told me if I got to free agency, I would have a fully guaranteed deal waiting. And if there is, then why wouldn't the Ravens then say, well, hell, if somebody else is willing to give it to him, then why are we fighting so much about this? Why wouldn't we just go ahead and give the guy the contract? Everything about this, and the idea that maybe he's fighting for the NFLPA, that it's a little bit about himself, it's way more about we all want guaranteed contracts. I'm the guy that doesn't have an agent, so I'm willing to be the one to fight about it because I don't have someone trying to pressure me into getting a deal done. Like, every layer of this, dude, is so fascinating.
I think, too, like, we may be in the sort of midst of a sea of change of,
right.
Like, we may look back in 10 years and be like, of course, like, they should have given him a guaranteed deal because, like, now everybody gets
That's the way it goes,
deals.
right.
And so, you know, that we happen to just be living through a time when, like, what seemed absurd was actually, like, the Browns, you know, changing the way that football was structured entirely. And so, you know, I mean, I think, like, think about when, like, Alex Rodriguez got, you know, $250 million from the Texas Rangers. Like, 4 years later, it seemed like a mistake, but now, like, paying $250 million for someone is in baseball who has, like, in the prime of their career would be like an absolute steal. And no one would say, oh my God, the Yankees overpaid for Aaron Judge when they gave him $300 million. They'd be like, no, that's exactly what, you know, that's a steal because, you know, they should have done that a long time ago. And so it's just like the things that continue to evolve in sports. It's never, you know, going to sit around and be what it was like when you're a kid and when you first fell in love with sports. But so many people kind of hold on to those perceptions and ideas. And so it's like, oh, God, football players shouldn't get guaranteed money. Well, maybe they should, you know, maybe like Lamar Jackson. I don't know that he sees himself this way, but maybe he does. It seems like, yo, I'm going to change the way that this works because I think that this is the one time in my life when I have maximum leverage.
And by the way, I keep hearing from Ravens fans who are like, hey, man, I'd pay him $40 million. I wouldn't pay him $50. What is your alternative? Like, what is it? Like, we keep saying, like, you just play Tyler Huntley? Is like that's the world that you envision here?
Well, also those things are always so funny because, like, everyone acts like they're like a salary cap expert. Like, oh,
Right.
$40 million is like
Right.
$50 million. Like, we'll never be able to afford a backup tackle. If that's like, you haven't done the actual calculation of it.
Correct.
Like, if the Packers can pay Aaron Rodgers $47-48 million and still have offered Devontae Adams like a contract that he passed up on, then 100% like the Ravens could figure out a way to do this. And the I guess the blessing of having Lamar is that he makes up for things in other areas. Like, you don't necessarily have to have, like a truly like a receiver that you're overpaying a shit ton and stuff. And so I think, that's the way. If I was a fan, I'd be like, it's not my money. Just pay the man. Like, I don't want to watch. I remember what Ravens football was like before Lamar was here, and it sucked, and it was boring, and it was like just drained the life out of me. And we were in contention for a playoff spot in the last game of the year, and we're about to go 10-6, and we couldn't even fill the stadium.
Right.
Like, they were people leaving in droves because they were like, I just cannot do this anymore. And that's where, like, that's the dark ages that I don't think anybody should want to go back to. It's just be like, just pay the guy, and then let's figure it out from there. Because, I just don't. If you have a truly great quarterback, maybe Lamar needs this whole year to sort of like cement himself in that status. It doesn't really matter what they're getting paid.
Correct.
You figure out ways to put other pieces around them. Yeah. And no fan is like smart enough to, understand the intricacies of the salary cap and all the sort of ways to kind of defer money or to move things around or equate stuff to an immediate bonus so that, they can sign X person. Like, you cannot win in the NFL without a great quarterback. You cannot do it. It's not that era anymore. Jeff Hostetler or Trent Dilfer are not walking through that door to win you a Super Bowl anymore. So you have to have like a truly great athlete, especially in the AFC. So Lamar's your guy. Figure out a way to do it, whether it's the end of the season or whatever, and just move forward with it. And because you'll be so much better off than blowing it up and starting from scratch and trying to figure out, okay, can we luck ourselves into another like 23-year-old most valuable player
Correct.
Who we have 5 years to? I mean, the one thing they should be kind of blaming themselves on is that they burned 5 years of essentially rookie contract. This is the last year where he's playing under his rookie deal, and so you've had a ton of roster flexibility.
If you wanted to do the all-in thing, if you wanted to do what it looks like the Eagles have done, right? Like, you could have been that team, but not the case.
Or the Rams. The Rams went all in on everything and blew up draft picks, and they won a Super Bowl. You wouldn't make that trade? Of course you would. Any team in the NFL would make that trade.
Of course. Hey, man, I am all for you finding out more stories about high-level athletes that are fascinated in becoming morticians. I just want you to know that, like, the more of those stories you can come up with, I will read every single one. That's a promise to me. That was a fun one. That was awesome. That was awesome, man.
You should tell the listeners what you're talking about.
Sylvia Fowles, who is retiring after this season in the WNBA, and has been just an icon in that sport. If you've not read Kevin's story, go search. You can just search Kevin Van Valkenburg, Sylvia Fowles. It will blow your mind. Like, I am so. I don't know. Like, was this out there in any way before? Like, that's I guess the part of it that I don't know is like, I don't know if somebody tipped you off or how you came across. That to me is, it's gold. Like, it's just so it's so incredible.
It had been out there a little bit. She had mentioned it in some interviews, and Sports Illustrated had written a decent thing about it a few years ago. But she really was willing to kind of open up about some of the details of it and some of like her own mental health stuff. And so I think they say that like every great feature writer is someone who like sees a kernel of an idea and like turns it into popcorn, and like. So that was probably like what I kind of would like to believe. It's like, oh, I saw this and I was like, I think I could do this, my own version of this. And Sylvia was just great. She was super.
It's so cool.
Fun and throwing out hugs and stuff at the end of the interview, just asking me about my own kids and stuff. Like, really a really nice person.
She would, if I remember, I remember her saying that she liked to play funeral. Is that, I'm trying to remember exactly what the line, like, I feel like there was a line in there where she was like, as a kid, she liked to play funeral. And I was like, wow.
So that, Mom, I don't want to play tag. I just want to play funeral. She would give her stuffed animals, little fake funeral
That is wild, man.
You know me. I like to just delve into these things that are like not sports.
Oh, no doubt. That's by the way, it's what I would prefer to do that. I'm just not as skilled as Kevin Van Valkenburg. At K Van Valkenburg on Twitter is, of course, how you follow him. Love you, buddy. Let's get together soon. Thank you for doing this.
Sounds good, bud. You bet. All right.
Kevin Van Valkenburg from ESPN checking in with us here on GCR. If you have not picked up the print issue of Press Box, you need to go do that. Mark Andrews is on the cover, larger than life. Great cover story from our Bo Smoka about his unlikely path to NFL superstardom. Go pick it up today for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms and at the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. Read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. We'll come in, tidbit tubular quickly, and then Simply the Bets. That's on the way. Glenn Clark Radio. See Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Academy, October 13th through 16th in Cecil County. Don't miss the breathtaking excitement of the dynamic cross-country competition or the elegance of dressage and precision of show jumping. There's also great shopping and activities, including a fresh food fest, corgi race, and a beer, wine, and spirits showcase. So come enjoy a beautiful fall day at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th through 16th. Learn more and buy tickets at maryland5star.us.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at close to $59,000 a year with a $10,000 bonus. Some restrictions apply. Plus a great retirement plan, medical, dental, and vision insurance, advancement to specialized units, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days earned per calendar year, and even further incentives for military members and veterans. If you have a passion for service and want a career for life, visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. You must be a United States citizen, possess a valid driver's license, and have a high school diploma or GED equivalent. The Baltimore County Police Department is an equal opportunity employer.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and offer you a few winners. And every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports' Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
The Maryland Lottery presents Ravens' Greatest Plays. 2021, the game on the line. With 3 seconds left, the Ravens connect on an impossibly long 66-yard field goal to beat Detroit, the longest field goal in history. Another great Ravens play belongs to Touchdown Joe from Silver Spring. Joe scratched a Ravens scratch-off and won a top prize of $100,000. You could be next. Play Ravens scratch-offs to win instant cash or enter to win great second-chance prizes. Please play responsibly.
Experience the best in Kamado Grilling, a complete outdoor cooking appliance. The Ginsu Kamado Grill allows anyone from novices to grill masters to sear, grill, bake, and smoke all types of food. Designed for efficiency and function, the Ginsu Kamado Grill upholds the enduring legacy of the iconic Ginsu brand. Constructed out of thick ceramic, the Ginsu Kamado Grill is perfect to cook all year round, is great for parties, and ideal for tailgating with your friends. Reserve your Ginsu Kamado Grill today at GinsuGrills.com. That's GinsuGrills.com.
Join Glenn at halftime of every Ravens game for the Project Game Day halftime show at Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. We apologize in advance. There's not much we can do about his face.
All right, we got to go through this quickly. MC Ernest is here. Mikey, we're getting content back rolling on TikTok, correct?
Yes, sir.
I like that. At Glenn Clark Radio is where you follow. And we're going to start we'll try to get some more stuff back on the show Instagram page as well, Glenn Clark Radio. It's been a minute. I apologize. But Micah is here, MC Ernest, and he's going to try to help us out with that fresh off getting the tan in California. Where he spent the weekend. Must be real tough life flying out to California for the weekend.
Yeah, it was hard going to Huntington Beach every day.
I bet it was just pure hell for you.
Sitting on the beach at the pier.
God, man.
It was rough.
Student athletes have it awful. Just really have it awful. He was out there playing volleyball, for the record. That's what they do. They go play wherever they can get the games. They go play. So, and Micah is loading up our Instagram. I did want you to. I'm gonna have you sit over there during Simply the Bets because I do want to see if you can run the board on Friday, if possible, or at least know if you're comfortable with the idea. After the end of the show, we'll revisit that then, and then we'll do Young Utes on Friday, I guess. It's gonna be tough because he's only in for. Comes in late on Tuesdays because he goes to class. The hell's that all about?
What do you even do there?
I don't know. That's
not much.
It's like I have to stay eligible to be able to play volleyball. Like, okay, dude, weirdo. So we'll try it on Friday. We'll try Young Utes on Friday. All right. Thank you for your hard work. Appreciate. Thank you for your service. Today's show also brought to you by your neighborhood Glory Days Grill, where the Oktoberfest menu is available right now. The Brewer's Sausage Platter, the Brewer's Sausage Sandwich, as well as the Bavarian Burger on the pretzel bun, the Chicken Schnitzel, the Cheddar Ale Soup, the pretzel. I can sing about it. Yeah.
The soup is...
The soup is because it's like, you could just eat the soup, right? Like, especially as we know, like, fall is actually starting this week, so it will, I believe it or not, it will start to cool off a little bit. There have been a few nights recently where you've gotten the reminder of like, oh, right. Fall's coming. So we know it's coming, and it's going to cool just a little bit, and then you might want to go in and you might want to enjoy a nice bowl of soup. But I would also encourage you to just order the pretzels and then have the soup there to dip the pretzels in. Quite the play.
I think that's the way to go. That's the way to go.
GloryDaysGrill.com is the website to get your order in. Tidbit, is it pressing? Do we need to do it?
I got one quick one. Can we do it
quickly? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it quickly.
Right. So this one is from Jeremy Frank. It's not really a question. I'm just going to read off the stat.
All right then.
From MLB
I should
Random
say
Stats.
that Tidbit is brought to you by the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill. With the perfect ceramic tailgate or home grill to sear, grill, bake, and smoke all kinds of food. Get the details. Reserve yours today. GinsuGrills.com.
But yes, MLB Random Stats on Twitter. So he sent out this morning, every player who has pitched for the Astros this year besides Ronel Blanco and Pedro Baez has an ERA under 4.0. So those two have been responsible for about 8 innings of work for the Astros.
It was awkward. Like, I saw Trey smiling in the pictures last night as they clinched, and you're like... I want to be happy for Trey. And maybe if the Orioles stunk this year, I would be able to be happy for Trey.
Right.
Like, it was conflicting. I have to be honest. It was conflicting feeling that as the Orioles were getting their brains beat in by the Detroit Tigers and seeing their playoff hopes expire.
That was tough. But so that means that 99.3% of their innings pitched have come from sub 4.0 ERA pitchers.
That must be nice.
There is only one team to
not
finish.
The Orioles pitching has been bad, but yeah.
There's one team to finish a year with a higher percentage. That was the 1979 Orioles. 100% of their innings pitched came from.
I mean, well, again, there wasn't really a bullpen at that point. It was just go 9 innings. That's what we talked about earlier.
But yeah, so those were the Orioles that blew a 3-1 lead to the Pirates in 1979.
Thank you for that reminder.
But yeah, interesting tidbit. Orioles related, so
yeah, sort of, 100%. All right, Tubular is brought to you by the Maryland 5-Star. See Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th through 16th in Cecil County. Orioles will play again tonight because them's the rules. Austin Voth and Joey Wentz as they play Game 2 against the Tigers, 7 on Masson 2. Maryland Soccer is on Big Ten Network tonight, 7 o'clock against Penn State. Loyola's at Princeton at 7 on ESPN+. UMBC's at St. Joseph's at 7 as well. Masson Nationals Braves at 7:20. Guardians White Sox at 8 on MLB Network. TBS Mets Brewers at 7:30. USA Network for WWE NXT at 8. Anything non-sports wise?
There's a 17-year-old that's making he's fighting on the Dana White's Contender Series, which is pretty cool. The Bachelorette season finale and that reboot show with Johnny Knoxville and Keegan-Michael Key. That's on Hulu tonight.
I feel like there was something that
and
I
then,
watched. I gave it.
This isn't like Tubular. I'm not sure, but the Serial podcast they released.
They did an episode.
Yeah,
you should put that on there. You should put that on there for sure. Obviously, it's a huge story locally. It's not sports.
So I gotta listen to the new episode because
I watched the new Fletch movie, which means nothing to you guys whatsoever. But Fletch was a series starring Chevy Chase years ago, and they rebooted it with John Hamm now being Fletch. And I'm a John Hamm guy, so this is right up my alley.
So you love those progressive commercials.
I don't hate them. I'm not going to lie. I don't hate them.
They suck.
He's made some interesting choices of movies he's appeared in, but I still like... Dude, him and Michael Bublé doing Hamm and Bublé on SNL a few years ago is one of... I just thinking about it makes me smile. I love me some John Hamm. I didn't know how I felt about this. It's good. I don't know that it's a Fletch movie. I think it could have just been its own thing, and I would have been like, this was a fun flick. I figured I would hate it. I didn't hate it. It's called Confess Fletch is the name of the movie. New Fletch movie starring John Hamm. Again, it's for me. It's not for everybody. It's got other people that you would like. Roy Wood's in it. Who else is in that? God, I don't remember who else is in it now off the top of my head. It's a good flick. Someone who looks like Cecily Strong, but is definitely not Cecily Strong. I don't know who she is, but she's not Cecily Strong. I would encourage you. It's worth the look if you get the chance. It's also in theaters, but you can rent it on Amazon and check it out there. All right. Thanks today to Kevin Van Valkenburg. Thanks also to Joe Serpico, as well as to Jonas Shaffer. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Don't forget, tonight, the Tyus Bowser Show, 7 o'clock. Tyus and Marlon Humphrey. Skipjack's Crab Deck in Middle River. We'll listen to segment 1 tomorrow. I guess Drew will join us tomorrow. Anything, like, legitimate tomorrow?
Stuff and thing.
Oh boy. We gotta step our game up. We gotta turn this week around, baby. That's what we gotta do. All right, thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, Maryland Lottery, Guilford Hall Brewery, the Great Eights Memorabilia, the Baltimore Police Department, FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, Maryland Vascular Specialist, the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Hey, MC Ernest, where are you on socials? Do you need a mic? Yeah.
At Micah.Ernest on Instagram.
Okay, give him a follow there. Follow Griffin, thanks to him, at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Tuesday evening. Go Birds. Sure, Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks, too. If you're with us on video, give us a minute. If you're with us on audio, do nothing. Simply the Bets is next.